Hello, everybody. Peace, peace, peace. Now we move on to the week ahead from June the 9th to June the 16th, and it's quite a week again. We have Mars moving into Taurus. We also have a Mars-Pluto square, which I have natally, so I'll talk a lot about that. We also have a Venus-Neptune square and a Mercury cazimi and a lot happening around the anaretic last degrees of signs, which are a little bit heightened, shall we say, anyway. So there's a lot of change coming, and we've still got all this Gemini energy supreme. So I'm going to take you through the week and start with sorry, on June the 9th. And I'm going, before I start and dive through the astrology, I would like to ask you to subscribe to my channel, leave me a thumbs up on my videos, watch them right through to the end, leave me comments. All of these things help get these videos more attention and help me grow my YouTube channel and things like that. Simple ways to help for very little effort kind of thing. Anyway, I'm just removing some of the energies because we don't need a cluttered chart for this. But it is quite a week ahead. Honestly, it's just, you know, I mean, it's good. All this Gemini energy, we had the Venus star point that's starting a 9.5 month period of Venus being the evening star, the Gemini evening star, with Gemini being the lead star. And I'm going to use that energy to teach the Venus star point work to the members of my private nest community. That is the community that gets calls and discounts and things like that. But then I also have a paid Substack area if you just like to read my writing. So, all support is very welcome. Anyway, we'll move on. I did pull cards and we'll look at those at the end, but let's share the chart and dive in. Zoom's changed some things too. So anyway, we start on June the 9th tomorrow, which is Sunday. The moon is in Cancer. I don't look at the lunar aspects on these forecasts ahead. I will tell you what sign the moon is in. I also don't really look at the asteroids. I do look at the main centaurs and some of the things, but I just can't look at everything on these. Some of them I save for my paid Substack members. So let's take some of those things out right now. I'm actually going to take Black Moon Lilith out. So you just get an idea of bigger players. All right. I find that the asteroids add nuance. The devil is in the detail, as my friend Laurie Lothian from Lunatic Astrology said. But sometimes it's a little bit much for a whole week ahead. So I'm going to give you the biggest aspects. So yeah, on tomorrow morning, Sunday, we start with the moon in Cancer. And then right afterwards at 12:34 a.m. Eastern, all these are Eastern time, World Time Buddy or timeanddate.com to move it to your time zone. It will always be happening at the same point all around the world, but different time zones, of course. So if it's happening at 12:34 a.m. Eastern, that will be 5:34 a.m. in the UK, and you get the idea. But anyway, Mars is spending the rest of today, basically, in the sign of Aries, its own sign. At the anaretic degree, there's that last anaretic energy, which is so heightened. Mars is in their own sign, Aries, so it's very passionate, very driven. I've been on like a human dynamo today doing stuff to keep myself busy. It's been quite marvelous. But Mars is going to move into Taurus, and I'll probably do a separate video for that because there's some significant aspects for that period. I won't get to that tomorrow, but Mars can be a bit frustrated in Taurus. Taurus is like a tree trunk, deeply rooted and very grounded and very steady and very stable and very, some would say, stubborn as well and quite resistant. And Mars likes action. However, I'm thinking this is going to be a welcome time to slow down a little, smell the coffee, and actually start putting things into place, because we are also having a first quarter moon this week. So we're moving into the action phase of the lunar cycle after the new moon that was last week. Then after that, at 6:35 a.m. tomorrow, we actually have the sun coming up and squaring Saturn. We've just had Venus squaring Saturn, and Saturn in Pisces has been helping us check our leaky boundaries, also let go of self-limiting beliefs. Pisces is very much about faith and fear, and self-limiting beliefs can be like fear of not doing enough, but they're beliefs that have been instilled in us. But a square to Saturn is often a drive to change and to put an end to something. It can be a bit of a reality check. This needs to go, this needs to end. I need to let go of this person, place, or thing. It's all connected with the Gemini energy of changing our perceptions as well. So you may feel, because we've just had Venus square Saturn, and now the Sun and Mercury is going to come up and square as well, that you are really thinking of clearing out some things, letting go of some things, and so on. The other big aspect tomorrow is that as soon as Mars moves into Taurus, he poses the Haumea, the creatrix. She is very much connected with regeneration of nature. And Haumea moved into Scorpio permanently a little while ago. And this is about resources. And I'm already seeing the mention of a fungi that is eating the plastic that's floating on the ocean. I think with Haumea being in Scorpio and Mars moving into the sign, an earth sign, which is our senses and our earthly resources, there may be a lot more emerging that's going to kind of start building up, all right? And we're going to kind of see things kind of come up that are going, oh, there's some rebirth and regeneration here, because Haumea was really a regenerative kind of character. She could give birth from any part of her body, and then when she would age, she would regenerate herself. She in the Hawaiian gods and goddesses, she was also the mother of all the gods and all the pantheon of gods. So she was a very powerful creatrix, a creation deity. And so this is the energy of rebirth, but I'll come back to her in a minute. At the end of tomorrow, that's the only major aspects. Tomorrow at 3:28 p.m., the moon will move into Leo for a couple of days. Just the moon spends just over 2 days in every sign. So June the 10th, no major aspects. So we're going to move on. Just the moon in Leo, you see that. June the 11th, Tuesday, we have at 3:12 a.m. Eastern, Venus over here in Gemini. She's moving at a trot. We've just had that Venus star point. She won't emerge from under the beams of the sun for about another 4 weeks because they're traveling together. But Venus will sextile Chiron at the master number 22, which is the master builder. And if you remember, Chiron was exactly conjunct the April the 8th eclipse at 19 degrees of Aries. And Chiron is actually going to go back and retrograde to 19 Aries later on. But at the moment, he's moving forward fast. This is going to be a lovely, supportive sextile. I keep saying this is a period of huge potential to manifest and create what you want. But of course, to manifest, we really have to do the deep work. And Venus, the cycle and the pattern and the imagery is very much related to the heart chakra. And it's coming into the heart. What do you need to come into to really create? What's your heart's desire? What's your earthly desire for abundance in all ways, not just materially? This is, you know, what do you desire to create? What does your life want to look like? You know, do you want to kind of create some kind of thing that helps others? What kind of place do you want to live in? What kind of community do you want to live in? What people do you want in your life? And this is a very healing sextile that supports that finding your agency, really, and knowing that you have it in you to create. But anyway, also 9:21 a.m. on June the 11th, Mars comes up and squares Pluto. Now you're going to hear an awful lot of Mars Pluto. Mars Pluto is really violent and really this. Well, you know, I think there is that potential because Mars and Pluto, Mars was the traditional ruler of Scorpio, so he's opposing, so he's not in his best place at the moment. But and Pluto is the modern ruler of Scorpio, and they're both pointing at this Haumea. But I see Mars Pluto a little bit differently, or I invite you to, because I find Pluto aspects very rewarding if we lean in. And Pluto, yes, sure, can bring something to the surface. It's the excavator, it's connected to, Pluto's connected to sewers and drilling and excavating and mining and all things like that. But what are we really digging into here? We are digging into our soul's desire and to find our inner resources and strengths, our deep hidden empowerment. That's why Pluto is about transformation. And Mars is still opposing Haumea. And these two are in this almost decade-long extended square. They are heading towards their 6th of 13 squares in August. And so this T-square, it doesn't show that aspect, admittedly, so I don't know why it doesn't, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Mars is opposing Haumea, forming a square to Pluto and Mars. This is big drive to transform in fixed signs. This is drive to really make things real. Fixed signs literally fix things in place. Cardinal signs, like Aries, they start things. They are the initiators. Fixed signs make it real. They finish it, you know. So this really is a deep dive into our deepest resources. You could say it's your deepest psyche. It's these potent inner powers where you feel like empowerment coming right up from your root out. Okay, there can be a little bit of anger with this, with Mars square Pluto, potentially maybe a little bit of violence. But, you know, doesn't there always seem to be some violence going on? I just think this is actually a real push. I like my Mars Pluto square. It gives me great staying power. It gives me great drive and will to kind of tap into my deepest resources to get things done. I'm kind of liking this Mars Pluto square, especially because it's connected to Creatrix Haumea. You may, like, you're kind of really think, I've been trying to encourage for so long to kind of really get a clear picture of what you're trying to create in the world. I know it can be edited over and over and over again, but planning and visioning and setting intentions are powerful things. And this is going to give you immense drive to start creating. Plus the moon by Tuesday, June the 11th, is almost 2 signs, almost 60 degrees, almost at the sextile, and will make the sextile to the sun. So we're really in the waxing phase of the moon, the action phase. So, really start pushing to create and get things set up so that you are going to build your dream and move towards your dream. So use that Mars-Pluto square. Okay, so June the 12th, Wednesday. Saturn over here, remember, he's been doing the limiting belief thing and, can be a bit like a reality check. But I like this aspect. This is going to happen at 5:14 a.m. Eastern, but you adjust for time zones, you feel it approaching. Saturn sextile series. Saturn is this is Capricorn Capricorn is Saturn's home sign. Ceres is about our needs, met and unmet. This is a supportive aspect. This is a great aspect for really kind of tapping into what the structures of your life should look like to support and meet your needs. Okay, emotional, physical, all those needs, spiritual, everything. And then later that day at 6:47 a.m., Mercury's moving so fast. Mercury will also square Saturn, bringing the mind into it, and Mercury in their own sign as well, Gemini. So this is, writing that new story that I keep talking about, weaving that new story. Powerful, very powerful week. A lot of still erratic energy and confusing energy with all this Gemini, but that's okay. That's where your grounding is important. Make sure you're doing your self-care, because this is all a lot, this Gemini energy. Okay, it's crazy. Then we move on to June the 13th, Thursday, and the sun will sextile Chiron, the key to healing, following Venus sextile to Chiron, still at 22 degrees. You are really able to build something from that place of I am and your root power, really stepping into your agency. If it is to be, it's up to me, is kind of one of those things. If you cannot expect the world to do it all for you. Asking for support is different, but seeking answers out there, or kind of expecting everybody to do things your way, or expecting the world to just support you without you making an effort and action and stepping into your agency and figuring out who you are, is just not going to happen. All right. So Thursday, June the 13th, and I'm not talking like, sovereignty in terms of political, I'm just talking about you being a sovereign being and choosing how you see things and what you create. So later that day, 7:54 a.m. on Thursday, June the 13th, Venus is moving along, starting to edge away from the sun, but Venus will sextile the shit stirrer and truth teller Eris. It's a supportive aspect again, but it's also, she likes to pull picket fences down. Interestingly, as this aspect approaches, I've come across a Reddit forum. I'm not even on Reddit very much, but somehow I came across this, and there's this one guy who's talking a lot about Venus. And of course, I do my Venus retrograde class. I teach the Venus star point, all those things. I'm fascinated by Venus. She's my most elevated planet. We're getting a whole new picture of Venus, and she's actually shifting and changing, and she is powerful. Alice Bailey called her the most occult and powerful of all planets, and in The Secret Doctrine. And Alice Bailey is really hard to understand and read, but I think she's right. Venus is our Earth's big sister, and she is creativity, and she is the heart and love, but she is like this powerful beating heart of love, and she's hot and volcanic and has a dark side and has phases. So what my point was, this Venus sextile to Eris, the Eris tends to pull picket fences down and shake tables and rattle things. So then with all this Gemini energy kind of changing perceptions, Jupiter there too, there may be a little bit of table shaking, especially with Mercury coming up as well. There may be some truth speaking and truth telling from your perspective, but remember Gemini is about listening too. Okay. Then later that day, 10:01 p.m., Mercury will sextile Chiron. So you can just see how these are all tracking together now, right? But eventually, well, I'll talk about that in a minute, but Mercury sextile Chiron, this is us looking at being our own key to healing. I don't know how many times I've heard it and also said it in conversation with friends that really we are our own kind of medicine people now. And that doesn't mean not going to the doctors and not using, modern medicine at all, but it means being discerning and figuring out if it feels right for you and questioning and asking questions, all that kind of thing. So anyway, but healing in all ways, right? June the 14th, big day, big day. First, we have the first quarter moon. That's at 1:18 a.m. That's the action phase. Mercury in their own sign, Gemini, Mercury's sign. Virgo is one of Mercury's signs as well. And really, this is all making this pattern to Chiron and to Eris. And Virgo is the sign of holistic energy and service and detail and getting the filing done. It's really time to get down to business, right? And chop wood, carry water, and start creating the details and the structures and the filing systems and the routines. It's time to get to work. Okay. But then we have a Mercury cazimi. It begins at 6:54 a.m. if we use the 17-minute orb, which there's a bit of disagreement about the orb. So choose what works for you. And the sun will actually conjunct Mercury exactly at 10:32 a.m. at 24 degrees and 6 minutes of Gemini. I actually did a whole video for it because it's such a big cazimi. So I'll link to that. You might want to go and check that 20-minute video out. But cazimi means in the throne of royalty, kind of lit up by the sun. Your mind's lit up. But we have to remember this is the exterior or superior conjunction, which means Mercury is on the other side of the sun from our perspective and kind of beaming in messages from the gods through the core to Earth. So, but it is usually a moment of clarity, all right, a big moment of clarity. And it ends at 5:54 p.m. Okay. And so then by then the moon will have moved into Libra. I forgot to mention the moon moving into Virgo, but I talk about that on my dailies and things. So okay, Saturday the 15th, and then we're nearly done. Mercury comes up and sextiles the shit stirrer, the table shaker. So, well, more truth speaking but listen to other people's truth as well, please, with Gemini. So, and then the sun will sextile Eris. So next Saturday, the 15th, more table shaking, more standing up for outsiders. I won't be surprised if there's more kind of, out there saying, this isn't right, this isn't right. But really, it's from your perspective, this is about standing up for where you have felt you have not had agency and where you have not claimed your agency. This is standing up for yourself big time, all these aspects to Eris, okay? And Sunday, I'm going to go through Sunday in case, well, because this aspect happens quite late on Sunday, June the 16th, and I might repeat myself next week, but that's okay. At 11:46 p.m. on June the 6th. In fact, let's get that aspect up. We have one of the loveliest aspects out there. It's a Venus-Neptune square. Any Venus-Neptune aspects are usually pretty sparkly and magically, even when it's a square, even when it's a one of change, because it's in mutable signs. But I will say that this is at the anaretic degree, okay? So look at this. Mercury is now at the anaretic degree. That means the last degree. Venus is at the last degree. Neptune's at the last degree because Mercury is going to square Neptune as well. And the anaretic degrees or last degrees are a bit like a no man's land. We know we're moving into the new country, the new sign. Venus will move into Cancer. Actually at we'll move in on Monday. I'm not going to go as far as that. And Mercury will then move into Cancer as well. But before they do, they square Neptune. And this is about trusting and having faith that you've got this and that there's an air element, really. It's very heightened energy, but there really is an element in it of saying, just have faith and trust that you've got this. Okay. Okay, let me look at the cards. I'm going to stop the share and I'm just going to pause 1 second. Oh, my husband messaging me to tell me that dinner's ready because I put it in the oven and the oven was beeping. Oh, anyway, let me get the cards up. I've got an image I'm going to share of the cards and then we'll leave it at that. But before I go, I do want to, or before I read the cards, please, please, please subscribe to my channel. But we get 3 reverse cards this week because remember, Mercury and Venus are under the beams of the sun. Everything's behind the sun, burned out by the sun. This is all very much an inner journey of claiming your agency and your inner power. But we start with the Death card reversed, which can mean resistance to all this change, okay? Because all this Mercury and Gemini energy is change, change, change. So, and the aspects, this is the shadow of these squares to Saturn and things, is fear of change, maybe clinging to the past, not wanting to move on, feeling some grief as well. And if you feel that way, do honor, that you feel that, but know that it is an inevitable cycle of transformation with this Death card, okay? This is death and rebirth, okay? And then we move to the Ten of Swords, which is also reversed. And that's another sign of resisting the inevitable and not wanting to let go of negative thoughts and feelings. You may have a narrative, a story rooted in lack, scarcity, and helplessness. And it just indicates this card is just a message to think about that and look at that and think about where you've got those negative narratives in your mind. And then lastly, we get the Eight of Wands, which is a lovely card. Okay, but it is another reversed card, which also can mean unfocused energy and lack of direction and a bit of burnout as well, because this is a lot. So to my mind, these cards are a caution to keep doing your grounding, your self-care. Do it often. I encourage you to really create a self-care kind of practice that has got things that take 2 minutes and things that take longer. So if you start to feel that tiredness and that burnout, you've got something you can go and do that fills your cup again, that just brings you joy. So it's a big week again ahead. I will see you next time.